seconds. But I've got to ask this question. Dr. Eisenstein, we had emergency managers on from Indiana on the border with Illinois. We got internal documents from the state of New York. In January of this year, now 8 months ago, the federal government was preparing police for a flu outbreak, doing riot drills, telling them harden their police stations, get ready for mass graves. And then magically, April, this comes out and they hype it up. And then now magically they've got a vaccine. And magically they're saying it's going to kill hundreds of thousands if we don't take it. I mean, I don't see any way this couldn't be rigged at some level. And then a lot of epidemiologists, virologists say this is clearly a manufactured virus. Looks like it was made in a laboratory, was altered. Doesn't really have a pedigree. Any comments on that?
Yeah, no, I've thought about this a lot, and I think it's 100% true, you know, but unfortunately it does make a difference. The cat's out of the bag, you know, and be it government manufactured, lab manufactured, pharmaceutical industry manufactured, we have a potential serious problem, you know, and all the more reason why their answer, you know, they thought they had a neat package. They thought they were going to put something out and have an answer for it. That's one theory. Or they were going to put something out that didn't work, but people would get it. A mild flu, which they would be able to then scare people into pandemic. Remember, the word pandemic doesn't mean you're going to die. It means a lot of people can get it. There's no question in my mind that millions of people have gotten this swine flu strain. You know, very few have died relative. It's estimated in this country that between 2 and 3 million people have gotten this flu, the swine flu, including in my practice. I have a feeling we've had at least 100 patients with it. You know, most people don't get tested, so you don't even know if you had it or didn't have it. What they didn't count on is that it may actually be problematic. You know, it's like they didn't count that it may actually kill people. I mean, that they didn't need it. They didn't want to kill people. That's not their goal. See, killing people doesn't help them sell drugs. They need the people alive and sick. That's what helps them sell drugs. So that's where I see that wouldn't be their agenda. What would be their agenda for mass sterilization and eugenics? They're out of business eventually. You know, it makes no sense, but it makes a lot of sense to keep people very, very sick. Unfortunately, they made them so sick.
But in the later phases, they do want the profit phase up front, but once they've already created a fiat banking system of quadrillions in derivatives, then they don't need us because it becomes a resource issue. But
right, well said, well said.
But I do see your overall point that they do milk the very crises they've created. You know, that's like the inside word from the big antivirus software virus companies putting out the viruses themselves.
Right.
Let's talk. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, 100% right. I mean, and one of he's like my adopted son. He's been with us since he's 14 or 15 years old. Genius, a computer person. And he said to me back in before 2000, he said, this whole thing of Y2K, which everyone forgot about, is all a hoax. It was all made up by the techies who just wanted to play games with everybody. And he said it's the same thing, just what you said, Alex. It's not even a conspiracy theory. All the viruses are made by the same company that have the antivirus equipment.
Well, it's just amazing. They certainly capitalize on all of it. And, yeah, the government wanted to use Y2K as the pretext. They first put the fear out to make everybody convert over to the new systems they could control in a standardized system. Pat in Connecticut, you're on the air with Dr. Mayor Eisenstein. Go ahead.
Hi. I actually work at a nursing home here in a small town in Connecticut. And one thing I'm kind of getting worried about now is that they're going to start forcing inoculations on us with the swine flu, hepatitis, tuberculosis. And you have to wonder, almost for a second, why would they be going after the nursing homes if, you know, most of the people are already sick with, you know, the dementia and everything else?
Because if they can enforce on the nurses and doctors and the enforcers, then they'll more happily try to force the citizens to do it. That's like the Model States Health Emergency Powers Act back in the 2002, 2003. They tried to make first responders do it. In fact, I've got a bigger question for Dr. Eisenstein along that same line. Masses. In fact, now it's out. Half of the UK doctors are saying no. More than half of New York nurses. It was 30-something% last week in New York. Why, in your opinion, are they trying to force the doctors and nurses to do this first?
I think you gave the answer. When you get the first responders to get vaccinated, they're more likely to give it to someone else. But when you can't make the first responder take it, and they readily admit they don't take it, then how are they going to enforce it to somebody else? What happens when this is a very powerful statement when thousands and thousands of doctors and nurses say no? I mean, this is I find this absolutely incredible. These aren't doctors and nurses who don't believe in vaccines. We don't have that many doctors who don't believe in vaccines. So obviously they've hit a nerve with these people when they said no.
Yeah, why target the old and then women and children and pregnant women when normally they tell pregnant women don't take any shots? They just say, yes, take it. Take it.
Let me tell you something. I think this is really sinister. You give a pregnant woman a shot, you've affected her baby, and now you've got that child to give drugs to the rest of that child's life. It sounds sick. I mean, it's, but can you imagine if you inject now 4 million pregnant women in this country, you've just built yourself a great market. It's so, I can't think of any other reason. The flu shot is called the Category C. Contraindicated during pregnancy. In fact, there was a class action lawsuit filed today with an injunction in Washington, D.C. to prevent the administration of the flu vaccine to any pregnant woman. It makes no sense.
Amazing. Okay. Thank you, Pat. Great points. Jenny in Texas. Jenny, you're on the air.
Yes, sir. I have some information I believe is important about how many vaccines they are actually going to give, and they're trying to create a false shortage in addition to trying to make us sick. My husband is a police officer, and we live outside of Lubbock, Texas. Is about 260,000, and his supervisor came in from a city meeting with emergency people there, and he said that they're only planning to do 40,000 shots, and they're going to do it at our local sports arena. So it makes me wonder why they're telling us we have to get it, and then say, well, we're only going to have this many shots.
Well, see, it's all done by color of law. They tell police, firemen, nurses, you'll be fired if you don't, with no force of law behind it. And so, again, it's more of an acclamation, more of setting the precedent, and really like a federal drill internationally to get everybody lined up and find out and gauge. They're always testing. They're always probing. And they'll make tens of billions of dollars off of this, but then practice the federal control. That's the Fed's excuse to be in there locally bossing people around. Dr. Eisenstein, your take on what she's saying.
No, I tell you, I think it's what you said earlier, Alex. They're backing off. They're afraid. They would give $300,000 to all the residents of Lubbock, Texas, but they have it. It's really available. Come on, they got the greatest manufacturing ability in the world. They can't produce the stuff, not a chance. But they're afraid that they know it doesn't work, and so if they're really afraid, there may be a serious a swine flu epidemic, and people may die. And what do they do if they gave 250,000 people in Texas the swine flu, and 5,000 people die, 100 people, 500? What's their excuse now? And now their excuse is we couldn't vaccinate the rest of the group, so they're going to vaccinate a small percentage and said we just couldn't get to everyone in time.
Yeah, I mean, the scientists we talked to say this is clearly engineered. And so do they know it's an earlier version that's going to mutate into something really deadly? And then they'll say, see, we told you, you better take the shots, and it sets the precedent. I don't want to declare victory now. It appears on the surface they are pulling back and the public's waking up, but they've got all sorts of curveballs. I've never seen them gear up for something this big without it being real at some level. And so I don't want people to get a false sense of security here, but I do think we're having an effect on them. Anything else, Jenny from Lubbock?
No, sir. I just think that confirms what y'all have been talking about. So.
Well, does your husband say the police are waking up, or are they planning to take a shot? I mean, do they like their commanders telling them they got to take a shot with no authority?
No, we will not. He will not. And his supervisor said, me and my family will not. And my husband, as he says, the infection is spreading. the infection of information.
You know, let me tell you something. God bless you and your husband, you know, for the work he does. Alex, how exciting is that a supervisor here, someone who's not a hardcore radical as such, like you or I, is saying, I'm not going to take it. That's what it takes. You know, it's the power of one. I've always believed that, you know. I mean, no matter how strong you are, you know, when someone stands up to you, and especially, Alex, you are right, these are paper tigers. You know, the president and all his czars, you know, are just paper tigers. You know, they're academicians who've never been in the real world, never did anything real, and it's really shameful. And the people who voted for them, I pray they're waking up and realize what you've done, you know, and then hopefully we'll do something different.